The music of the Horchin Mongols of eastern Inner Mongolia. Musical performance in the Mongolian language is one of the ways that Mongolian peoples strive to retain their cultural traditions in light of the fact that they are increasingly a smaller and smaller percentage of the population in eastern Inner Mongolia, China. For the purposes of this DVD set, traditional music performance by Horchin Mongols in the eastern Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region consists of at least 3 major categories of performances. First, traditional songs. These songs are usually short and often melodious, and are meant to be rich in cultural flavor and a celebration of Mongol life. There are a variety of kinds of traditional songs, including love songs, hero songs, banquet songs, folk songs, songs that express a love of a particular place, humorous songs, songs about the love of relatives, songs about love between a monk and a woman, and songs about horses, among others. It is also the case, however, that any particular song can be classified in several different ways. The song Alai, included in this DVD set, for example, is seen as a love song, a song about the love between a monk and a woman, and a humorous song. Second, storytelling in which the narrative is the focus of the performance, but the singer of tales most frequently also plays a musical instrument. Horchin Mongolian storytelling is part of an Asian tradition of storytelling in which the storyteller relates a story that might extend over weeks, as Chen Shuanglian illustrates in remembering her experiences with Horchi as a child before television in her life story. Performances for storytelling are thus usually longer, often much longer, than traditional songs. However, even though the musical accompaniment for the stories is not melodious in many cases, but simply rather repetitive music played for background, it is still considered essential to most such performances. In Horchin Mongolian musical performance, there is a category of songs that is frequently accompanied by musical instruments, but which are narratives about real people who fought for the Mongolian people and whom the Mongols revere. These are called hero songs, a kind of ulgur or narrative song. Perhaps the most famous and well-loved example among the Horchin Mongols is the hero song Gadamiran, who died a martyr's death fighting for the rights of ordinary Mongols. Hero songs are often filled with intrigue, deceit, and warfare, but are also accounts of friendship, acts of heroism by both men and women, love of relatives, and love of country. This DVD set includes examples of hero songs, of which Gadamiran and Togteg are the 2 hero songs most often mentioned by Horchin Mongol performers. There are also performances that tell stories about mythical supernatural beings who shaped features of the world in eastern Inner Mongolia, a kind of just-so story. Songs that tell stories about humans with supernatural or superhuman powers who punish evil, and songs that tell stories about monsters and the humans who fought them. These kinds of sung stories are also called Ulger songs, and are meant to inform or remind their audiences about the richness of Mongolian culture and the nature of the world that Mongolians know. The songs, Balje Nima Jana and Tongliao Hatten Magtal, on this DVD set, illustrate Ulger songs from the Horchin area. Tull stories are ancient styles of Mongolian songs about Mongolian heroes who fought against monsters or some other malevolent force that would bring harm to the Mongolian people. Zhang Shuangxi performs 2 Tull stories on this DVD set. Gazer Bogd, Argzer Mangis Darsen, and Galong Gilbenga Hoyol Gilbang Sheri Darsen. Buyan Togdahu's analysis of Horchin musical performance discusses the evolution of Horchin narrative songs in eastern Inner Mongolia as a response to the need felt by Horchin Mongols for greater complexity in storytelling than the more traditional forms. The singer of tales in Mongolian musical performances is called a hurchi, a man who tells ulgers or tull stories while he plays a hur, a high or low-tone sehu, or the morin hur. There are also epics drawn from the history of the Mongolian people and from Chinese history about famous people, their lives, and their deeds. These epics tell about past historical periods, provide rich details about life in the past, particularly about warfare and statescraft, and demonstrate the skills of the storytellers in retelling these stories. Jorigtu's Jingarin Tuj illustrates one segment of a much longer historical epic. Ganjar's Yu Chi Jingda illustrates a segment of another, longer historical epic. Third, Holbos, innovated lyrics by individual singers based on centuries-old traditional Mongolian musical styles and accompanied by traditional Mongolian musical instruments. Holbos could be considered as another kind of vulgar song, a long narrative poem following a tradition of long standing. But I am separating them from traditional Ulgar songs because in my experience in the Horchin Mongol area, Holbos are now mostly composed for special occasions by the person who sings them. These contemporary songs in the Horchin area of Inner Mongolia usually focus on two goals. First, reminding their audiences about the glorious history and rich culture of the Mongolian people, the beauty of the environment in which the Mongolian people live, and the honor due to the Mongolian people. But second, many contemporary Holbos in eastern Inner Mongolia also point to the more recent history of China and the role of the Chinese and Mongolian political elite in economic and political development of the Inner Mongolia region and of the contemporary nation of China. They often contain both praise of the Mongolian people and praise of the leaders, both Chinese and Mongol, who lead the contemporary Chinese province of Inner Mongolia and the state of China. Other Holbos are created specifically to honor visiting guests or to be sung at important events. Junastu's a paean to the Golden Hingan, and Chen Burin Bayar's Holbo illustrate contemporary Holbos performed in the traditional style. There are, of course, other kinds of traditional musical performances by Horchin Mongols in this area. The two major examples of this are traditional musical performances accompanying dance and traditional musical performances accompanying religious activities. There are three examples of contemporary performances of traditional Horchin dances with musical accompaniment in this DVD. The Andai dance originated in the Horchin area of Inner Mongolia. Buyan Togtahu's discussion of Horchin Mongolian musical performance suggests the probable origin of the Andai dance in shamanism. This DVD set also provides an example of the Andai dance as performed by the Horchin Jun Garun Hoit Pushu, an area in the south of the Tongliao City Prefecture. The second example of Horchin dances as musical performances is the bowl dance, performed by the same group. In the traditional ceremonies held at the Buddhist temples in the Tongliao and Ulanhat areas, which were constructed after the Chinese state permitted the freer expression of religion, monks chant to musical accompaniment, now often recorded. And in the ritual still performed by many Horchin Mongolian shamans, who are called bol, these shamans and their assistants play percussion instruments and chant as well. Included on this DVD set is a short segment from a shamanistic performance in the village of Urd Manghaitu, Baolongshan town, to demonstrate what a shamanistic performance looks like and sounds like. But these performances fall, to a large extent, outside of the scope of this exploration of the Horchin Mongolian musical performances chosen for this DVD set, even though shamanism is referred to by several of the informants in their life stories. and by Buyen Togdahu in his analysis of traditional Horchin music.
Jerem yih lamia da tosgassen yih sumi dosen chimugum ter wolim. At ochern mane mongolчууд бол яваас шүтгөн үндэстэн. Өртний үед бол бөөгийн шүтжсэн сүлийн үед бол шарын шашин манд орж ирсэн. Юм бол энэ хоёр юмас болоод одоо бүр юм тусгай юм шарын шашин дэсгасан юм бөөгийн шашинтай байсан дуу байдаг. Одоо бөөнэ бол хөлгөнгөө асаран тийм бөөнэ жангуултай болгосон олон одоо дуу байж та. Хөлөг тэрэн бүр дуулдаг. Бөөнөр мада адилхан бүр дуулдаг. Одоо анте бүжиг анте дуу юм чинь бүр үнэн одоо тэр бөөнэ юмас шууд одоо уламжилж ирсэн байж. Иймэрэн тэрий бидэн ардын дуу гэж шууд хэлж өгөө өндөн бөөнэ ёслын дуу гэж яад биш өндөн бол бас нэг ардын дууны төрөл билээ багтаа шүү дээ. Үнэн бол тэр бас одоо маш олон төрөл байдаг.
The three major traditional stringed instruments used by Mongolians of this area are the high tone and low tone sihu, a four-stringed instrument, the morin-hur, called matuchin in Chinese, the Mongolian two-stringed horsehead fiddle, and the chur, a two-stringed musical instrument whose tone and style of playing is quite different from the two-stringed morin-hur. Of these, the high-tone sihu is the most commonly played in the Horchin Mongol area, but the morin-hur is the soul of Horchin Mongolian musical performance. The three major kinds of performances above may be performed by individuals or groups of individuals playing only instruments, by singers singing with musical accompaniment, or by singers without musical accompaniment. Musicians may be male or female, but are mostly males. Singers are most frequently females. Performers can be of all ages. Performing groups may include individuals from different villages and townships. Examples of many of the above kinds of performances can be found in this DVD set. There is, of course, a great difference between the skills of the performers on this DVD set. Some are truly professional performers who work in a variety of paid professional positions in professional troupes that perform at major ceremonies, for political leaders, or who perform regularly at hotel banquet rooms. Other performers on this DVD set are experienced performers and knowledgeable about Mongolian culture, but either lacked or were denied the opportunity to move into fully professional roles, or were not quite good enough to do so. However, many of the performers included in this DVD set are excellent at what they do, some as vocalists, some as musicians, some as storytellers. There are, of course, variations in the way that the same song or story is performed. In performances, there are examples of two different performers playing or singing the same song to illustrate differences in the performance of that song. One note on pronunciation and orthography. Horchin Mongols vary in their pronunciation of some of the terms used in this analysis, and in the spelling of those words. For example, some Horchin Mongolians talk about ulgers, while others say uligers. Still others say wooligers. Similarly, some Horchin Mongolians say holbos, while others say holobos. This is certainly partly regional variations in pronunciation. Also, the orthographic rendering of Mongol terms varies. Horchin, the spelling adopted for this DVD, is frequently written with an initial K, and so forth. Partly, this is regional variation, but partly this is also a result of the incorporation of a major part of the original country of Mongolia into the Chinese state after 1947, and the difference between Mongolian pronunciation and Chinese pronunciation of Mongolian words for musical instruments and place names. For example, the city in which this project was initially begun was originally called in Mongolian Horchin Yoyi Kyanchi, or Ulan Hot. In Chinese, it has become Wulan Hauta. The administrative unit in which that city is located was originally called in Mongolian the Hingan League. Now it has become in Chinese the Shingan League. Similarly, the musical instrument called in Mongolian the Morin Hur, the horsehead fiddle, has become in Chinese the Matuchin, and so forth. One of the questions that is frequently asked about minority ethnic groups living within much larger and more politically dominant ethnic groups who are in control of the state, including schooling, is whether the culture of that minority ethnic group can endure. In the case of the Horchin Mongols of eastern Inner Mongolia, it is my considered opinion that Mongolian culture in Inner Mongolia has a very good chance of remaining strong for a long time. There are several reasons for this conclusion. First, the Mongolian population in China is quite large, about 3.5 million people in 2010, depending upon whose estimate is accepted, and how a person is determined to be a Mongol. However, not all of those who self-identify themselves as Mongol speak or understand the Mongolian language, but most of them value Mongolian culture as it exists in songs and stories. Because of the sheer size of that population and the determination of many Mongols, including the Mongolian political leaders in China, to retain as much of their cultural heritage as they can, there is every reason to believe that Mongolian culture will thrive. Also, there is the geographical proximity of Inner Mongolia to the country of Mongolia, where there are another 2.7 million Mongolians who share their Mongolian cultural heritage with the Mongolians of Inner Mongolia, China. Second, many of the local governmental entities discussed above, including the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region itself, are nominally under the control of Mongolians. Whether for reasons of ethnic pride, responsiveness to constituents' desires, or sometimes for business reasons such as tourism, local governments throughout eastern Inner Mongolia support major Mongolian cultural maintaining organizations. Examples of these are the many schools, primarily rural schools but also some urban ones, that teach in the Mongolian language. The Horchin School of the Performing Arts in Tongliao that trains high school students for careers in the performing arts. The Mongolian performing troupes that perform throughout Inner Mongolia and China, and who take Mongolian performances to other places throughout the world as well. And the growing number of tourist venues throughout the regions, such as museums, performing arts centers, and so forth, where Mongolian culture and the performing arts are presented. Third, the Mongolian media is thriving. There are 3 television stations in Inner Mongolia that offer programs in Mongolian and in Chinese about Mongolian history, contemporary events that are of interest to Mongolians, and programming that includes Mongolian music and stories. There are also many newspapers in Inner Mongolia that publish in the Mongolian language using the classic Mongolian script. And the publication of books, pamphlets, and articles in classic Mongolian script is flourishing. More recently, there are also a great variety of audio and audiovisual digital media such as CDs and DVDs that feature Mongolian music by artists from the Mongolian areas of China, artists from the country of Mongolia, and even now from Mongol emigres to such countries as the United States. The most active contemporary arena for access to Mongolian music is, of course, the Internet. If you enter the words Horchin, Ulgar songs, or almost any of the other common Mongolian words in this introduction into the web browser Google, you will find a wide range of Mongolian songs from the country of Mongolia, from the province of Inner Mongolia, China, and elsewhere on websites such as YouTube. Many of the pages that you will find on the web are of modern Mongolian music, sometimes even Mongolian rap music. This DVD, by contrast, focuses on traditional Mongolian music from the Horchin areas of Inner Mongolia, China. Fourth, socialization into the Mongolian cultural tradition is widespread and compelling. Beyond the education of primary school students in many rural and urban areas, each year in the Horchin Mongol area, a Nadam festival is held in the Zhurihe Grasslands in the Horchin left-wing middle banner of the Tongliao City Prefecture, which is attended annually by tens of thousands of adults and children. In the contemporary version of that pageant, there are wrestling events, horse races, musical performances, cultural and art displays, commercial product displays and sales, and tourism. Schools throughout the Horchin area send hundreds of students to perform in those musical events. The sheer mass of people attending these events, both as performers and as spectators, enforce the vision of Mongolians in Inner Mongolia that Mongolian culture is alive and flourishing. Fifth, traditional Mongolian music is compelling and important to many Mongolians. It is beautiful, enthralling, and contains much of what maintains them as a distinct cultural system within China. The values that it stresses through song and story, for example, courage, bravery in the face of the unknown, honor, hatred of duplicity, love of relatives, love of the environment, humor, love between men and women, provide a moral basis for Mongolian life in an era in China where socialist values are mostly but a memory, and Confucian precepts no longer seem to serve as a guide for individuals in their daily lives. From 1950 to 1978, China was, to a great extent, and particularly in the rural areas, closed to contact with the outside. The goals of the country of China, particularly under Mao Zedong, was oriented to creating an economic system based on agricultural production in the collective sector and on state industry and state farms in the state sector. In the cultural sphere of the rural areas, the pre-revolutionary class system and the control of landlords of all kinds over land and people was transformed. a universal education system was implemented, primary health care was made available, and in time a public system of broadcast television emphasizing national pride, educational programming, and promotion of the principles of communism was established. However, in many rural areas of eastern Inner Mongolia in which the Horchin Mongol people lived, children grew up learning the Mongolian language both at home and in rural schools, listening to their elders talk about great Mongolian heroes, listening to Hurchi singers of tales tell about Mongolian men of the past who fought monsters, listen to the songs and stories about mythical creatures and how they created the nearby landscapes, and went to community events with their parents at which they became further steeped in Mongolian culture. When television programming in Mongolian began to be broadcast in the area, Mongolian children watched Mongolian storytellers from areas beyond their own villages, telling and retelling Mongolian stories, watched educational programs about agriculture and pastoralism, watched Mongolian dances, and watched Mongolian leaders who spoke of the future of Mongolians in the Chinese state. After the opening up to the outside world, beginning in 1978, and as a result of the change in Chinese official policy toward economic development, the emphasis of rural life shifted away from the local rural community and agricultural production toward regional and national possibilities in work, trade, education, and entrepreneurship. However, for many Mongols who were born before 1978, Mongolian culture, Mongolian music, Mongolian dance, and Mongolian storytelling remained an important and central part of their lives, a sentiment which many parents passed on to their children. The musicians, singers, dancers, and storytellers in this DVD set are those children, or their children's children, most of whom were born in the rural areas of eastern Inner Mongolia and raised in the Horchin Mongolian culture. It is no wonder that they are committed to that culture, to its beauty and its intricacy, to its moral quality that tells them clearly what is good and honorable, and suggests to them how important it is to pass that passion on to their own children and to others. This DVD contains some examples of traditional Horchin Mongolian musical performances from eastern Inner Mongolia, as videotaped in the summers of 2002, 2005, 2007, and 2009 in the Tongyao City Prefecture and in the Shingon League of Inner Mongolia. The intent is to explore a range of Mongolian music, from those local people who perform mainly for their fellows in their own villages and towns, to those professional performers who perform in major regional, national, and international venues. As an American anthropologist whose profession most frequently examines the lives of those people whom other scholars overlook, I have tried to present not only the performances of the music of the Horchin Mongols of eastern Inner Mongolia, but to include interviews in which some of them talk about their music and their
非
lives.
常喜欢，非常喜欢。
In the introductions and the various constructed films, I present a view of Horchin Mongol culture as one anthropologist sees it.
就慢慢在小学3年级的时候，发现自己有一点这方面的天赋。
I hope that you enjoy this exploration of the music of the Horchin Mongols of eastern Inner Mongolia as much as I did in recording it, editing it, and writing about it.